before the breadcrumbs, before the witch, before the flames licking the sky, there was hunger, a hunger so wide it swallowed laughter, so deep it scraped the bones of a home, so cruel it made monsters of men and ghosts of mothers. This is not the story you were told. This is the one the forest remembers. The story of Hansel, the story of Gretel, the children left behind, and the legend they became. There was once a woodcutter who lived at the edge of the forest. Not inside it, no. Only fools live inside the forest. His cottage was simple. 2 children, 1 wife, and not enough bread for 4 mouths. Hansel, the older, eyes like river stones, always watching, always thinking. Gretel, the younger, quick hands, quicker mind, a giggle that could light a hearth even on cold days. Their mother, no, not their mother, their stepmother. The story changes there. Her smile was made of cold butter, soft, greasy, slipping when it got too warm. She never hit the children. She didn't have to. Winter, the snow came early and never left. The kind of cold that made your teeth ache even in your dreams. The kind that turns broth thin and wood damp. The kind that brings whispers. They sat around the fire, barely aglow. The children curled together under a single blanket. The stepmother whispered to the woodcutter after the children had slept. But Hansel didn't sleep. "We cannot feed 4 mouths," she said. "We cannot lose them," he said. "Then lose them where the forest will find them." A silence followed. Not agreement, just exhaustion. That night, Hansel held his sister tighter, her breath against his chest, slow and trusting. He didn't cry. He counted the days, counted the crumbs, counted what it might take to never come back. At dawn, the stepmother woke them. Soft voice, false warmth. "We're going for a walk," she said. "Your father is gathering wood. Come along now." Hansel asked if they could eat first. She said no. "We'll eat after," she promised. Lies taste different when you're used to starving. As they stepped outside, Hansel did something quiet, something small. He dropped a white pebble, then another, and another. He had gathered them the night before, slipping from the house beneath the moonlight while everyone slept. He dropped a trail, not because he believed they'd be rescued, but because he believed in remembering the way back. They walked deeper than they ever had, past the known trees, past the ones with their initials carved in bark, past the place where the stream bent like a question mark. The woods changed there. They stopped chirping, stopped rustling. They listened. The forest watches differently when it knows what you're doing. The stepmother told them to wait by a tree. "We'll be back soon. Just stay here, darlings." She gave them nothing. Not a kiss. Not a blanket. Only silence. Then she walked back the way they came. Back toward her empty cupboards, her silent guilt, her warming bed. And the children waited. First they played. They sang little songs. They told each other stories. But as the light bent sideways, and the wind changed its voice, they understood. They had not been forgotten. They had been left. Children know things adults forget. They know when a hug is honest. They know when footsteps won't return. And they know how to hide fear in each other's arms. That night, they curled under the tree, shivering. Gretel whispered, "Will we die?" Hansel answered, "No, I left a trail." And though his hands were shaking, and the cold had crept into his bones, he believed it, because belief is the only warmth you have. When even the stars won't speak your name. In the morning, the pebbles shone. The sun found them, each white stone like a heartbeat in the mud. The forest tried to confuse the children. It moved trees, it bent roots, covered paths, but the stones held. Hansel and Gretel followed them one by one, tired, hungry, but together, until the trees began to look familiar, until the smoke from the chimney found them, until the stepmother opened the door and pretended to be surprised. The children had returned, but the hunger had not left. It would come again, and next time, there would be no stones. Some stories end when the children return home. This one doesn't, because sometimes going back is worse than being left behind. The stepmother said nothing when they returned. She didn't scream, didn't weep, didn't ask where they'd been. She only stepped aside, let them walk past, and shut the door behind them. The fire was lit barely. The bread bin was empty. And their father, he hugged them, tight, desperate. But he didn't ask too many questions. Didn't ask why Hansel had mud on his sleeves, or why Gretel's eyes wouldn't blink. Because a man who lets go of his children in the forest can only live with so much truth. The snow didn't leave. The cold deepened. And so did the silence between the stepmother and the woodcutter. Hansel heard it again, one night after the fire died. The same low whisper. We have no choice. The boy will lead them back again. We'll go deeper this time. Gretel was asleep. Hansel wasn't. He didn't cry, didn't shake. He slipped outside before dawn. The pebbles were gone. The yard swept clean. The river frozen solid. The next morning, the stepmother gave them each a crust of bread. Dry, hard, hollow. Eat slowly, she said. It's all we have. Then, we're going for another walk. Hansel's stomach twisted. Not with hunger, with knowing. He looked at the crust in his hand. And then he broke it, crumbling it into small, trembling pieces. He slipped each one into his pocket as they walked. This time there were no pebbles, no moonlight, only breadcrumbs, only hope, only desperation. This part of the forest was older, not just by trees, by silence. The air was heavier, the light thinner. Even the birds didn't dare sing. Their father left them beneath a dead tree. Said he'd return when the firewood was gathered. Hansel didn't speak. Gretel didn't move. They listened to the crunch of boots fade, until the woods swallowed them whole. Then they waited, and waited, and when the dark came, they stood. Hansel reached into his pocket. The breadcrumbs were gone. The birds had followed them, not to guide, but to feed. Breadcrumbs are not stones. They are soft, temporary, foolish. Hansel knelt in the dirt, fingers trembling, eyes wild. I dropped them. I did. Gretel touched his shoulder, not with blame, with calm. We'll find another way. But the forest doesn't offer ways. It offers warnings. It offers traps. They wandered in circles. The trees were different now, bent strange, whispers in the bark. They tried to sleep, but something watched from the dark. Hansel gripped a branch like a sword. Gretel curled beside him. They dreamt of fire, and teeth, and doors with no handles. In the morning they walked again, silent. The forest stretched, twisted. Every tree looked the same. Every shadow followed them. Time bent. On the third day, when their legs gave up and their stomachs burned with emptiness, they smelled it. Sugar, cinnamon, warmth, the kind of scent that shouldn't live in the woods. They crawled toward it, crawled like wounded animals, and then they saw it. A house, not a shack, not a hovel, a cottage, bright and smiling in the middle of the dark. Its walls were candy, its windows sugar glass, its roof gingerbread thick as timber. It should not have existed, but it did, and the children were starving. Hansel broke a piece from the windowsill. Gretel bit into the shutters. Sweet, warm, real. They laughed. For the first time in days they laughed. Then, a door creaked open. No footsteps, no warning, just a voice. Soft, sticky, old. Oh, little birds. You've found my crumbs. A figure stepped into view. Not tall, not hunched, just wrong. Eyes too shiny, smile too wide, and sugar on her breath. Come in, my sweets, the old woman said. The forest is no place for children. But some children are not just children anymore. Some carry hunger in their bones, and others carry fire. The forest is never generous. When it gives you sweetness, it is only seasoning the trap. The doorway opened like a sigh. Inside, warmth, real warmth. A fire that didn't flicker with smoke. Bread that didn't harden in your hands. Cushions that didn't itch. It smelled like safety, but it felt like a lie. The woman who welcomed them wore lace. Not the kind sewn with love, the kind spiders weave. Her voice was honey poured over glass. You poor things. Lost, starving, afraid. You must rest. Eat, heal. Gretel glanced at Hansel. Hansel said nothing, but his hand never left the table edge. They were fed. Hot soup, sweet milk, soft bread, thick with butter. Their bodies wept with relief. Not tears, but the way hands stopped shaking, the way breath stopped racing. The old woman smiled. My name is Griselda, and you are safe here. She asked no questions, offered no explanations. And when they fell asleep on the feathered beds that night, she whispered something neither child heard. This batch will last longer. Hansel woke first. His stomach was full, but heavy, his mouth dry, his throat coated in something he couldn't name. He crept through the house. No windows, only sugar glass. No clocks, only ticking, from deep within the walls. No shadows, because shadows only fear honest light. In the kitchen he found Gretel. She wasn't eating, just staring at a pie on the counter. It's warm, she whispered, but the oven's cold. Griselda appeared behind them like a question with no answer. Up so early? She said. They nodded. She smiled, but not with her eyes. Come, little ones. Let's keep you busy. Strong hands must stay sharp. She gave Gretel a broom, sent her outside to sweep. She gave Hansel a plate of cold meat, told him to eat. He hesitated. She watched, so he did. Later, Gretel found a door behind the house, half covered in ivy, steel hinges, no keyhole. When she touched it, the ivy moved. She backed away. Griselda's voice came sharp. That's the smokehouse, dear. Dangerous. Stay away. But the air didn't smell like smoke. It smelled like salt, like rust, like endings. That evening, Hansel saw something strange. A pig pen behind the house. But no pigs. Only bones. Not small ones. Not animal. Too long. Too straight. He looked away. Then Griselda called him. Eat, child. Grow strong. I have plans for you. That night, Hansel and Gretel whispered beneath their sheets. She's fattening us, Hansel said. Why? Because that's what you do before slaughter. Gretel said nothing, but she didn't sleep, and neither did the forest. It leaned in, listened, waited. The next morning, Hansel found a door open, the back shed. Inside, a cage, not empty. Rats, perhaps, or things once like rats, but they no longer moved like anything alive. Then he turned. Griselda stood at the door. No smile now, no kindness, only hunger. You've grown nicely, she said. Into the cage now, boy. He ran. She moved faster. A hand like iron, eyes like burned sugar. The door slammed, lock turned, and Hansel was trapped. She fed him through the bars. Every day, sweets, meats, milk thick with cream. And every morning she came with her crooked finger. Give me your hand. Hansel held out a bone he'd hidden. Griselda grunted. Still thin, just a little longer. She turned to Gretel. You, stir the pot, clean the bones, sharpen the knives. Gretel obeyed, quiet, careful, but she watched. She counted days, measured ingredients, learned which herbs dulled the senses, and which kept you awake. She waited, because some fires must be lit from within. Narrator rising quietly. The forest had taken them, but it had not broken them. Not yet, because even the sweetest lies can still be set ablaze. Every spell is built on belief. Every lie needs a listener, and every witch forgets what children are made of. It wasn't just a house made of sugar and spice. It was something older, built on temptation, on fear, on the bones of those who whispered yes before they asked why. Gretel swept the same floors again and again, but the sugar tiles never dulled. The butter walls never melted. The gingerbread roof never cracked, because the house wasn't made to last. It was made to lure, to wait, to feed. In his cage, Hansel grew quiet. The food dulled him, not his body, his mind. The milk was too sweet, the meats too rich, the days too warm. Griselda called it care. Grow strong, boy. I want you ripe. But Hansel heard her whisper when she thought he slept. One more day. The fat must seal the fear in the flesh. So Hansel counted again. Not crumbs. Not pebbles. Breaths. So he would not forget how to run. Gretel stirred the stew. Taste, Griselda said. She dipped a spoon, brought it to her lips, paused. Too much rosemary, Gretel whispered. Griselda grinned. Clever girl. Most don't notice. That was the moment she stopped being the maid and became the apprentice. Griselda began to trust her. Slightly, stupidly. She gave her more to do. Bone broth takes 2 days. Stir it by the moon. Clean the jars. Some have curses. Use gloves. If the oven breathes, do not look inside. But Gretel looked. She always looked. Because the only thing sharper than her broom was her memory. One night the oven sighed. It wasn't wind. It wasn't heat. It breathed. Like a beast sleeping beneath bricks and flame. She opened the iron door slowly. Coals. A cracked plate. And a bone too large to be pig. She closed it. But not in fear. In planning. Griselda owned a box of gloves. Dozens. Leather. Iron. Silk. Ones stitched with teeth. Ones that whispered when worn. Gretel cleaned each pair. Carefully. Some burned her hands. Some didn't cast shadows. She found one made of woven nettle. She kept it. Hidden. Because some poisons grow only where secrets bloom. One day, Griselda left. Don't touch the pantry. But witches don't keep their power in food. They keep it in books. Gretel opened one. It had no title. Only lines written in ash. And drawings in something too dark to be ink. She flipped past curses. Past potions. Past diagrams of things with too many legs. Until she found a recipe. To unmake the house. Feed it flame born of betrayal. She didn't know what it meant. Yet. But she closed the book. And remembered the page. That night she snuck to the cage. Hansel was awake. His eyes clearer. She whispered. One more day. I need her close to the fire. He nodded. Then said. Don't miss. The next day. Gretel spilled flour on the floor. Twice. Griselda snapped. Clumsy girl. You'll ruin the batch. Gretel lowered her eyes. I'll fix it. Just, please don't make me go near the oven. I'm afraid of fire. Griselda grinned. Then today's your lesson. She grabbed Gretel by the wrist. Dragged her to the iron mouth. Inside, girl. Clean the back. Gretel feigned terror. Cried. Trembled. It's hot. Get in. Gretel looked at the old woman. Eyes wide. Voice small. I'm too scared. Can you show me how? It wasn't innocence. It was calculation. Wolves don't always wear fur. And girls don't always wear fear. Griselda laughed. Foolish child. Like this. She leaned in. 1 foot in. Gretel pushed. Hard. The witch fell in arms first. Then shoulders. Then screams. Not words. Not curses. Just burning. Gretel slammed the iron door. Turned the latch. And didn't blink. Not once. The house groaned. Not from pain. From awakening. The sugar melted. The candy dripped. The air thickened. Gretel ran to the cage. Unlocked it. Hansel staggered out. Eyes wide. Breath ragged. You did it, he said. But the house was still changing. Because witches die. But curses linger. The house that shouldn't exist. Was built on hunger. But now. It would burn on something else. Revenge. Witches do not truly die. They burn. They break. But their eyes stay open. And their hunger waits. The fire didn't stop when Griselda screamed. Pulsed. Like the heart of something ancient and starved. Hansel and Gretel stood outside as the candy walls bubbled. The roof sagged like a melting tongue. Smoke twisted into strange shapes above the chimney. Forms with too many limbs. Faces without mouths. The oven's shriek was not human. Not anymore. The air stank of scorched sugar and secrets. Gretel didn't look away. Hansel did. But only once. When the fire finally coughed out, they returned. The house was a ruin of syrup and soot. but not empty. Inside, the shelves were untouched, the books still intact. And on the kitchen table, pouch, small, heavy, bound in thread the color of dried blood. Inside coins, real, gold, stamped with symbols neither child could read. Gretel took them. Hansel didn't stop her, because they had earned something, even if it wasn't freedom. In the ashes behind the oven, Gretel found it. A door in the floor, wood burned black but not broken. She opened it. A stairwell descended into the earth. The walls lined with candle stubs, each one flickering without flame. They didn't go down. Not yet. Some doors must stay closed, until you're certain you can climb back out. That night they read. By guttering firelight, Gretel opened the nameless book again. Its pages were warmer now, as if awake. Inside, one phrase kept returning. The forest does not kill. It transforms. She didn't understand, but she circled it with charcoal, because the forest had changed them, and it would again. In the morning they left. The trees did not welcome them. Branches clawed, roots whispered, paths shifted. But Hansel was stronger now, less soft, less afraid. And Gretel, she didn't just walk through the woods. She read them, watched for symbols in bark, counted the crows, spoke words from the book under her breath. And slowly, the forest began to listen. They weren't alone. Something followed them. Not close, not loud, just far enough to hear breathing. That didn't match theirs. Hansel stopped once. Do you hear it? Gretel nodded. It's not the witch, she said, but it remembers her. They passed a tree with bones in its roots. Children's bones. Clean, arranged, worshipped, and beneath them, scratched into the bark. Feed the wood, and the wood will remember you. Gretel didn't touch it. Hansel spat at it. But the wind changed after that. Colder, tighter, like the trees had taken offense. Hansel stopped at a clearing, sat down, stared at the sky. We left no trail, he said. Gretel sat beside him. We don't need one anymore. But what if we forget how to get home? Gretel smiled. We're not going back. That night, the forest shivered. The sky bent. The trees leaned away from something they couldn't see. And Gretel saw her, in a dream, or maybe not, Griselda, whole again. But her eyes were wrong. They shimmered like boiled sugar. They dripped, and she spoke without sound. You think you've unmade me, but you've only fed the next shape I'll wear. Gretel woke up screaming. Hansel held her. They said nothing, but neither slept again. Days later they looked back. Smoke, behind the hills, far off, but familiar. Gretel stood still. Hansel said, "The house." She nodded. Something's trying to build it again. Some spells are not cast. They are grown. And witches, they are not born. They are remembered. The surface always lies. What's buried beneath never forgets. This is where the story claws upward from the dirt. They turned back. Not because they wanted to, because they had to. The forest wouldn't let them leave. Paths twisted. Landmarks vanished. Every direction folded in on itself, until, through the bramble and mist, they stood again before the blackened ruin, where the candy house once stood. But it was no ruin now. The house had begun to rebuild itself. Licorice vines coiled upward. Caramel walls thickened again like wax. The sugar glass windows glimmered, still cracked from the fire. The oven, still warm, waiting. Gretel didn't speak. She walked straight to the scorched place behind the oven, brushed aside ash, pulled on the metal ring. The trapdoor groaned open. A stairwell descended into dark that wasn't just the absence of light. It was thick, living, older than the roots of trees. Hansel hesitated. It's not her anymore, Gretel said. Then what is it? What made her? Step by step, the air thickened with rot and sugar. The walls wept syrup. The candles flickered without flame, whispering names. Children's names. Some spoken, some screamed. They reached the bottom. A round room, stone walls carved with symbols. The floor, a spiral of bones carefully arranged. At the center, a heart, not beating, not fresh, but suspended in amber, large as a pumpkin, veined with candy strands, pulsed when Gretel stepped forward. Not alive, just aware. A sound like breath through teeth filled the room. Then a voice. You burn what you see, but you do not kill what feeds you. Hansel stepped back. Gretel didn't flinch. She held out the pouch of gold coins, threw them at the heart. The metal hissed. The heart cracked. Thin red light spilled from the break. And the ground trembled. Visions erupted. Not dreams. Not hallucinations. Memories. They weren't Gretel's. Not Hansel's. They belonged to the witch. A girl once. Fed to the forest. Swallowed. Changed. The forest didn't kill her. It bent her. Taught her. Let her grow teeth. The sugar house. The oven. The hunger. They were symptoms. Not the sickness. Something stirred below the bones. A cracking sound. Not wood. Shell. Gretel grabbed Hansel's hand. Time to go. We haven't. We're not killing it. We're starving it. From her pocket, Gretel pulled the page from the book. The one she tore before they returned. She lit it with a candle that wasn't burning. And spoke the words. Let hunger eat hunger. Let lies taste ash. Let sweetness rot in the throat that speaks it. The spiral of bones caught first. Then the walls. Then the heart. It screamed. Not in words. In sound that split the air like splinters. They ran. Up the stairs. Through the melting house. Licorice snapped. Candy crumbled. The oven burst from its stone cradle like a dying beast. And behind them, the trapdoor collapsed into black. Like the earth had swallowed its own memory. The trees did not attack this time. They bent away. Ash rained from the sky. A hush spread for miles. As if the forest was waiting. Then, a single bloom. In the path before them. A red flower. Small. Bright. Gretel picked it. Pocketed it. The forest's apology, she said. That night they didn't sleep. They watched the sky shift from purple to silver. Hansel looked at his sister. What are we now? Gretel didn't answer for a long time. Then, not what we were. They had stepped into fire. And crawled out as something more than children. Because sometimes, the witch doesn't burn. She transforms. And sometimes, she takes two forms. One named Hansel. One named Gretel. Escaping the woods is easy. Leaving what the woods made you isn't. The forest no longer pulled at their feet. No longer whispered curses. The birds sang again. The path cleared. Sunlight returned. Too warm. Too soft. Like a memory borrowed from someone else's dream. Hansel squinted. Do you think this is real? Gretel didn't answer. She just walked. Their father's house. Not as they left it. Grayer. Smaller. Sadder. The door creaked like it remembered their feet. Inside. Silence. Dust on the floor. Chairs out of place. The fire cold. But someone had been here. The bread knife was clean. The woodpile stacked. And then, a sound. A cough. From the back room. Their father. Thinner. Older. Or maybe just broken. He looked up, and time fell off his face. Hansel. Gretel. He didn't move. Just wept. Not loud. The way someone cries who didn't think they deserved to anymore. Gretel stood stiff. Hansel hugged him. Tightly. Not for comfort. To feel if the man was still real. Where is she? Gretel asked. He didn't answer. Just looked toward the woods. She followed your trail the second time. Thought she could catch up. She didn't come back. Neither child blinked. Neither asked how long ago that was. Some absences speak for themselves. That night they ate soup that was too thin. Too salty. The way it had always been. Hansel stared into the bowl. This isn't home. Gretel nodded. It never was. Hansel buried the pouch of gold behind the house. Gretel hid the flour under the floorboards. They didn't speak about the book. But they remembered every page. Some things followed you, not because they were cursed, but because they belonged to you now. They heard rumors from nearby villages. A beast in the woods with teeth like glass. A girl who walks through fire unharmed. A candy house rebuilt again, then gone again. Gretel listened. Hansel nodded. They didn't correct anyone. Some stories protect people more when left untrue. Villagers visited, brought bread, asked questions. Hansel smiled politely. Gretel said little. Once a priest came, offered blessings. Gretel refused. God didn't walk into that oven with me, she said. The priest left quickly. One day Hansel stood outside, watched the edge of the forest. His hand gripped an axe. What if it grows back? Gretel joined him. It will. Then what do we do? She didn't blink. We go back in. Gretel found a shard of mirror behind the house. Old, cracked. She held it up. Her face looked the same. But her eyes, no longer a child's, no longer afraid. She placed the shard in her satchel. Because even the broken things can reflect truth. Escape is not the end. Not for children who've tasted the witch's fire. Not for those who left part of themselves behind. And certainly not for the forest. Because the woods remember. And the witch was never just one woman. Sometimes the witch is what's left inside you. Some stories end with a kiss. Others with a grave. But the truest tales end when the listeners stop recognizing the heroes. Time passed, but not like before. Autumn fell hard and fast. Winter lingered too long. The forest was quiet, but never empty. Hansel chopped wood with too much force. Gretel gathered herbs that no one else dared touch. Villagers stopped asking how they had survived. Stopped visiting altogether. Fear doesn't need proof. Only memory. Gretel began to dream again. But now, she wasn't the one trapped. She was the one feeding. The one stirring the pot. Opening the oven. Smiling. She woke one night with ash on her palms. No fire nearby. No explanation. Only the scent of sugar. And something that smelled like meat. The book they thought they'd left beneath the ruins reappeared. Inside Gretel's satchel. On the table. Beside the hearth. Its cover was warm. Its pages no longer crumbled. New words appeared where old ones had burned. You are not who you were. You are who you became. Gretel didn't tell Hansel. Not right away. But she began to write in its margins. Her own spells. Her own warnings. Her own name. Hansel grew tall. Strong. But quiet. Sometimes he stared too long at the woods. At the axe in his hand. I still hear her, he told Gretel once. Not Griselda. The house. Gretel nodded. Because she heard it too. In the cracking of bread crust. In the pop of firewood. In her own breath when she stood too close to heat. One evening, 2 children arrived at their door. Thin. Tired. Eyes wide. They said they'd escaped a house in the forest. One made of chocolate and teeth. They spoke of a woman with a voice like velvet rope. Hansel and Gretel exchanged no words. Only glances. They fed them. Gave them rest. And when morning came, the children were gone. No footprints. No crumbs. No goodbye. Only a black feather on the doorstep. In the farthest corner of the cabin sat a candle. Small. Plain. But it never melted. Never dimmed. It simply burned. Softly. No matter the wind. No matter the rain. Gretel placed the book beside it. Left them there. As if together, they were keeping watch. Or waiting. Gretel stood before the broken mirror again. This time she didn't flinch. She looked. Truly looked. And saw. Not the witch. Not the girl. But both. Woven. Balanced. Whole. Hansel entered the room behind her. He saw too. But didn't speak. He simply lit another fire. They didn't need warmth. Just something to keep the dark busy. Hansel and Gretel came back from the woods. But not as children. Not as victims. Not as innocents. They came back as keepers of what they had survived. Not cursed. Not doomed. Just changed. Because the forest doesn't take without giving something in return. And sometimes, the thing it gives you is the story. If you ever find a path made of candy, walk away. If you ever hear a voice too sweet to be true, don't follow. But if you do, remember, the oven doesn't just burn. It reveals.